Hi, my name's Erin. Thank you for hearing us today. And we appreciate this process and being able to come here and see democracy up close and in person. I think this is the first time for a lot of us ever being in this situation. So I am speaking in support of this bill, and I'll tell you why. I really believe that this particular bill would bring us to parity with the other states that have energy facilities siting boards, such as Massachusetts and Connecticut. Currently in Rhode Island, I feel like we are underrepresented. We do not have the proper makeup of the board to correctly look at all of the issues pressing on our state. I feel like this expansion of the board would also bring greater transparency into the process of siting energy facilities and have greater representation. Many critics of the bill here are arguing that the bill is anti-business and anti-development. This is simply not true. This is only a change to the Energy Facilities Siting Board. It only impacts this one particular board. If they were coming to us with a software development or a startup or a shopping mall or something along those lines, it would be a totally different conversation. So I feel like that kind of going so far to the extreme invalidates any argument for actually putting forth this bill. Like, they're kind of swinging the pendulum so far to the extreme, and it just doesn't bear weight with me. And as a state, I feel like that we cannot pretend this is a totally benign development. This is a major, major development. It will be one of the largest of its kind in New England, by far the largest power plant in Rhode Island. And as Ava and everybody has mentioned, we already have the largest power plant in Rhode Island in Burrillville. And I'm sorry that it was my misfortune to be born in Burrillville. And my family's lived there since 1860, as the gentleman mentioned before. Sorry, we didn't know that they were going to put the pipeline right there. Why do I have to subject my family, my children, and have the air that they breathe be massively polluted by this dirty energy plant? And one other thing that I have to mention, everybody's talking about clean energy. Everybody who's against the bill is talking about clean energy. Just because you stick the label clean energy on something doesn't make it clean. This is a fossil fuel plant. Make no mistake about this, and the backup fuel is diesel oil. Okay, it's natural gas, and natural gas emissions in the atmosphere are so much more lethal than coal or oil. And if we look at the methane gas emissions of America, the United States of America, we have greatly increased even since last year. So if we keep doubling down on this fossil fuel strategy, where is it going to leave us? And everybody criticizes us and said this is a NIMBY issue. They mock us for being NIMBYs. Whatever. You know what? In a state of 48 miles long, with over 400 miles of coastline, this is all our backyard. We cannot ignore this until the coastline is up in Burrillville. And that is what I feel people are trying to do. And just say, we just need jobs. We need jobs. The green energy sector is one of the highest growing sectors for jobs in Rhode Island. So why don't we put some of our eggs in that basket? That's another thing. So I'm sorry I was born in Burrillville. That's my fault. My parents should have known better, and my grandparents. Anyway, so back to the thing. The mere fact that they would require this major source of air pollution permit makes it not like any other development in the state. Okay, we have tons of development going on in Burrillville. It might surprise you. We have housing developments. We have different industries already in town. Nobody protests them. Nobody is in opposition to them. This is unique to this particular project. I just want to make sure that that's clear. We are not totally against any sort of development. And I don't think that this bill would send that message. Just by making us the same as Massachusetts and Connecticut's Energy Siting Board, I don't think that it's going to say, we're closed for business in Rhode Island. So regarding the timing as well, everybody's talking about introducing a variable into the Energy Facilities Siting Board process. When is a good time? When is a good time to make this change? You look at the docket, and believe me, I've spent so much time on on the energy websites and on our own Rhode Island Public Utilities Commission website. They have a full docket all the time, like year-round. There's developments all over about compressor stations, about pipeline expansion, about wind, about energy, about solar projects, about offshore wind in Block Island. When is a good time? When is a good time to bring us to parity with the other states? we have to address that. Okay, maybe so if it makes everybody feel more comfortable with the bill, put in a grandfathered clause or whatever. But we should be at parity with Connecticut and Massachusetts, other states within this region who are also in the same grid. Regarding the ability for Burrillville to vote on the tax treaty, as a community, we have, as you've probably heard, a lot of concerns with siting the second power plant here in our town. We already are shouldering a tremendous burden on our health, our resources, the air and the noise pollution by citing the state's largest power plant, the compressor station, and the massive natural gas pipeline in the town of 16,000 people. We've heard like 16,000, 17,000. According to the last census, it was like 15,960. So whatever, we can look at that. In light of this significant amount that we are already doing for the region's energy needs, we are imploring you to allow us to have a voice in this matter and to decide if the agreement is acceptable and if this is something that we need to do to take this risk for our health. And another thing to note, I can't remember where I put it in here, Rhode Island is actually the most energy efficient state per capita in the United States of America. We aren't at the top of a lot of lists, but we're at the top of that one. That's an impressive statistic. We are very, prudent with our energy usage. So with that being said, why do we have to take this hit for the energy of the region and take this hit to our environment, to our air, to our noise pollution, to our water resources, and our sewer? Why is that? There's other places to site this plant, and we do not feel like they have not actually admitted that there is an alternate location. We asked them several times because OSP, Ocean State Power, legally was required to have alternate sites. And regarding some of those alternate sites, you might be interested to know there's a site called the Buck Hill site during the Ocean State Power project. They are calling this one the Wallam Lake site. If you look at a map, the Buck Hill site was accessed from on top of the pipeline. The Wallam Lake plot of land is accessed from the lower part of the pipeline, because obviously you don't want traffic over the pipeline. Makes sense, right? It's the same plot of land. And I just wanted to read what the Rhode Island DEM said about that plot of land back in the late 80s. My dad tells me about this. It is not, so this was from Chris Rael from the DEM. And he says that this was already ruled out back then as a location for a plant. It is not only botanically significant, but highly utilized for recreational purposes, including camping, George Washington and Buck Hill Scout Reservation, hunting, fishing, and hiking, among others. I would recommend that this site, i.e. Buck Hill, not be considered for this power plant project, not only because of its close proximity to Dry Arm Brook, but also because potential impact of significant wildlife and plant species, as well as the recreation in this area. On the basis of what I know of these sites that I have listed, this seems by far the most inappropriate location for a power plant. That's from Chris Rael from the DEM, and I can submit written testimony with the actual link to this because it's on the energy.gov sites. It's from the Comprehensive Environmental Impact Statement, was done on Ocean State Power back in 1988. Yeah, page W132. So I can submit this and email you guys so you can see it. So the Buck Hill Road site was actually not carried forward as a recommended site by FERC because of its environmental limitations. And it's interesting to note today that we actually received a note from the Alan Shawn Feinstein Foundation stating the proposed power plant, with the negative effect it will have on the quality of air in its surrounding area, is a particular potential hazard to children, including those at our Cub Scout camp, just a mile away from the proposed site. That's from Alan Shawn Feinstein, who knows a little bit about kids and what they need. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew we are not just NIMBYs. This location is uniquely unsuitable outside of the presence of the compression station and whatever else, the pipeline. It's a terrible location for the plant. It's the tip of the last contiguous forest on the eastern coast. So, yes, sorry.
Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but you have almost lulled me into agreeing with you that this is not a great site. But it also strikes me that isn't that argument best presented before the EFSB, that if they don't think it's a good site, because this bill doesn't get into whether or not the beauty and the pristine nature of that land is the right place for it or not. You know, this changes the composition of that board.
I agree.
This gets into tax treaties, which we've beat to death about the local control issues there. And so, again, while I'm so sympathetic to your, you know, ideas and your nostalgia about the beauty of your land, I just think that that same testimony is better placed before the EFSB, where they can say, we don't need power. If we need power, this is the best place for it in the state. So, again, I'm very sympathetic to the argument. It's just not our job, so to speak, to decide where is the best location in the state for a power plant. But
Well, I feel like, and I agree, I know where you're coming from, and that is an excellent point. The challenge that I think we're facing today is we don't know what the EFSB is going to say. And we don't know if they do end up saying there's going to be a plant sited here. And there is a timeline of when their decision is going to be rendered. It's like early February. They were saying it shouldn't be rendered later than February. I believe between, I don't know, Paul knows, but there's a timeline between which they can render the decision. I believe that the referendum would happen before they actually cite or make the decision to cite the plant. So I feel like the tax treaty, this is just a fail-safe, I feel like, for us. And if we feel like they are going to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Just you were on that. Are you aware of any other community in Rhode Island that has a sort of voter initiative or referendum on an issue like this? I mean, you seem very well informed.
Not in Rhode Island. Oxford, Connecticut just voted on theirs on Thursday.
How about, okay, so we know not in Rhode Island, and I have heard people, you know, loud and clear about Connecticut and Massachusetts. How about a broader perspective? And if you don't know, perhaps another one of the, but throughout the nation, how many states allow communities to have a say in the citing of, we'll call them controversial? If you know. If you don't know, I mean, again, you seem very well read and very well informed, but if it's not your bailiwick, I understand.
I haven't looked at the...
That's fine.
Voter initiatives. Paul says he's more well-read and more well-informed.
All right, we
than
can
I
wait
am.
till another witness, but if you don't know, that's fine. I understand exactly.
I don't know off the top of my head. I've seen stuff about certain towns in New Hampshire because of the Granite State aspect, and I've seen certain towns and pockets. It's not necessarily a statewide thing, which I found unique. I found that interesting. I'm like, well, why would it not be a statewide thing? So we could look into that and find that out. So. I'm going to skip your right. We've hammered the tax treaty and the letter from the council. I don't think we need to say anything more about that. So I'm going to leave that part out. And I just wanted to, we talked about the timing. I don't feel like it's going to weaken the town council's position, because I feel like they'll have the whole town standing behind them to make sure they're going to get the best deal for the state. And to be perfectly honest with you guys, if they're going to cite this plant here, if the EFSB is going to say, yes, we rubber stamp this, we say, yes, they get to violate your noise ordinances at will, and you guys just find them, and good luck with that, because that's probably going to happen. We need to get a significant amount of monetary compensation for this to offset the value, the property value decreases that we're going to see, and the risk to our health. You know, and nobody's going to come in with a highball offer. Obviously not. This is not their first rodeo either. They're comprised of people who have come from the energy industry. They're not going to come in and say, oh, let's give this tiny town in Burrillville, Rhode Island, like a massive offer. They're not. So we just feel like, I know you guys have repeatedly said that we need to trust the town council, and we are hesitant at this point, and we feel like we need to make sure that they're getting us enough money. So we're not going to beat that dead horse again, but that's what I feel like. I feel like that it will not weaken their position, their negotiating position. I feel like it could only strengthen it, and the timeline is such that they would have to reach the tax agreement before the EFSB gives their recommendation. So I don't feel like that necessarily is the most terrible thing for our town council to have the whole weight of the town behind them, personally. And I just wanted to say one quick thing before I close, because I've talked for a while here. Respectfully, you know, people have mentioned there's only a handful of people who are opposed to this plant. That is absolutely not true. We have thousands of people who have signed a written petition. We had an online one going for a while, and somebody was like, online ones count for nothing. You need to do a hard copy. You need to get people's actual signatures. We have thousands of people who have signed a petition against the plant, and we have thousands of people who like the various community-sourced Facebook pages in a town of only 16,000 people, where you think about how many of them are on the internet, how many of them are elderly or children. It's significant. So I would respectfully disagree with those previous comments. And Jeremy wanted me to say something else, but I can't remember what it is, so I'll just be quiet. But anyway, in summation, we would respectfully ask you to thoughtfully consider this bill. We are kind of viewing you guys as one of our last hopes. We don't know what the EFSB is going to do, and they're all gubernatorial appointments. And, the governor has come out very strongly in support of this bill, and it's more than just jobs. Once we lose those habitats, once we lose that 200 acres of forest, that will be gone forever. And there are threatened species, not endangered species, but there are threatened species that have been observed up in that beautiful neck of the woods. And it's right next to George Washington State Park and Buck Hill. Like, it just defies comprehension that it even got to the docketing stage, quite frankly. Nobody can understand that. So that's why we're here pleading our cause. And thank you guys for listening. And we just pray that you guys will thoughtfully consider supporting the bill. I didn't mean to say pray. I'm sorry. This is my first time.
Nothing wrong with that.